Cam Staley has been the producer of Aggie Basketball in our Learfield studios. He is Dr. John Thornton. I'm Andrew Monaco. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow. 5 o'clock will be the tip. Tomorrow, Dos Equis tip-off show. 5:30. We'll get it started. The Aggies and the Creighton Blue Jays. Have yourself a great rest of your Tuesday evening. The final once again, Oregon 80, Texas A&M 70. We thank you so much for joining us. Thanks and gig 'em. This is Aggie Basketball from Learfield.
When an emergency happens, the right ER matters. And that ER is St. Joseph Health, the official healthcare provider of Texas A&M Athletics. Serving the region with accredited chest pain and stroke centers and other specialty care services to support you however you need. Emergencies happen, and we'll be here when they do. Learn more at st-joseph.org/ER. St. Joseph Health. Hello, human kindness.
How strong is your connection to Aggie football? Well, your Optimum internet connection is 99.9% reliable with speeds up to 1 gig. A connection so strong, they made Optimum the official internet provider of Texas A&M Athletics. And now, Aggies can combine internet and mobile and save big. Sign up now at Optimum.com or your local Optimum store. Optimum, where local is big time. Terms apply and are subject to change. See Optimum.com for details.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance wants to give you a VIP Aggie basketball fan experience this year. Visit 12thman.com/maroon contest and register for your chance. One winner and guest will get tickets, recognition on the video board, Texas A&M apparel, and a VIP tour of Reed Arena. Register today at 12thman.com/maroon contest. This exclusive opportunity is brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, proud corporate partner of Texas A&M Athletics.
At Schulte Roofing, we don't just see your roof. We see the home you worked long hours to earn, the memories made below your roof, the family your roof protects. I'm Josh Schulte, and here at Schulte Roofing, we don't take that responsibility lightly. Our bulletproof roof guarantee was built to protect what matters most and give you peace of mind for years into the future. Schulte Roofing, the only company voted best of the Brazos Valley 10 years straight. Visit us at schulteroofing.com.
Schulte Roofing, the home of the bulletproof roof.
On game day, there's nothing like tailgating, touchdowns, and Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea. Twisted Tea goes down smooth and tastes like real iced tea because it's made with real brewed tea. Cool, refreshing, and a 5% kick of alcohol. Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea for the 12th man. Look for the bright yellow cans wherever you buy beer. Keep it twisted. Twisted Tea Brewing Company, Cincinnati, Ohio. Please drink responsibly.
When faced with a disaster, the Cotton companies never fumble. As the trusted recovery partner of global businesses, Cotton is proud to provide property restoration, construction, roofing, temporary housing, culinary, and environmental support services. We're also restoring a long-standing Texas tradition as a proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics and the official sponsor of the Lone Star Showdown. One call, one team, total recovery. Learn more at cottoncompanies.com.
This has been the postgame show presented by St. Joseph Health. Say hello to human kindness with the official healthcare provider of Texas A&M Athletics. This has been Texas A&M Basketball, brought to you by Coors Light. Choose chill and gig 'em Aggies. 2024 Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Celebrate responsibly. Starry hits different. Texas Department of Transportation. Don't mess with Texas. And by Twisted Tea, hard iced tea for the 12th man. Please drink responsibly. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Texas A&M Sports Network.
All right, hoping all are going to have a good, happy Thanksgiving on Thursday. This is a great family-filled week, and we've got a 2-hour show tonight, Soccer Matters. This is the Thanksgiving edition. We stream at ESPN975.com. Thank you for tuning in, hanging in there with us after Texas A&M's post-game basketball show. A call-in number tonight, and I encourage your participation, 713-780-3776, as I want to know what you're thinking. My opinion, by the way, is only of one, and we are tolerant and encourage other opinions on the show. I'm going to get some tonight from Bayou City Soccer's Rudy Segura. We'll bring him on here in a minute. But I do want to take care of a couple of things here. Big tournament going on in Houston, the Copa Rayados tournament this weekend, youth soccer tournament. Nico's Greek and American Cafe is having a blood drive at the Woodlands location. So we'll give you a little more information about that. And a big thank you to David Divertal down at HTX, the Youth Soccer Club. They did a Kick Cancer Soccer Clinic. They're going to make a donation on behalf of their club to the Snowdrop Foundation. This Kick Cancer, the Snowdrop Foundation is a 501c charity that helps with pediatric cancer research, also provides scholarships, and has been my charity of choice for all the soccer-related stuff we do. When we are raising money. Okay, we got Champions League today. We're going to definitely talk about that. I've got Jordi Sunye from Barcelona, Spain. This is a really interesting interview. We talk about fans. We talk about the ability to be a fan of two teams, because I know there's a lot of people who say you can only be the fan of one. I don't believe that. I tape that in the morning with Jordi. We'll discuss that. And Messi and a lot more. The fact that Javier Mascherano is going to Inter Miami as their next coach, replacing Tata Martino. So we got a lot to talk about here. I want to thank, before we start, producer Abigail Hong, because she is stepping in for Brian McDonald. Abigail, step up to the microphone here. Thank you very much for all your help. Are you ready for Thanksgiving?
I am ready for Thanksgiving. Okay. I'm ready to eat a lot.
Yeah. What's your favorite? All right. As far as pies are concerned, I know this is like the big thing today. Favorite pie?
I love pumpkin pie. That's my favorite.
All right. Pumpkin pie.
What about y'all?
I would go with, I got a bourbon pecan pie from Brothers Bakery. So I'm gonna. That
sounds good.
Hand that as a gift, but it's one of those gifts that you then go and cut a piece for yourself. You know that?
Oh yeah, leave a piece for you.
I used to give my sister records or CDs that I liked, that I knew might come my way.
No, I totally get that.
All right. Thanks, Abigail, for all the good work. Rudy Segura joins me now. Bayou City Soccer. And, Rudy, your favorite pie for Thanksgiving?
It's funny because the bourbon pecan pie, I had one in South Texas, actually, and it was amazing. It was one of those that you need a nap afterwards, too.
Yeah, there's always the nap. That's definitely a Thanksgiving tradition. All right, let's get after it here. Abigail, I think we have soundbite number one. If you can pull this. This is the Red Bulls, and this ended up being the game winner. Now, the Red Bulls knock off New York City FC at Citi Field. This is MLS playoffs we're talking about. Their first goal comes from Felipe Carballo. It's an absolute laser hit into the upper corner.
Coronel to send this ball long in the direction of Forsberg making a run. This is brought down. Carballo with a shot. Go! An absolute laser, and the Red Bulls have the lead on the road.
On the road is across the Hudson River from Harrison, New Jersey. They really should be called the New Jersey Red Bulls, okay? I mean, it works for the New Jersey Devils. In the NHL. I don't know why it doesn't work for them. This is a big hit. This is a game. The Red Bulls only get 37% of the possession. I think we would have predicted that before the game. They're outshot 25-8. New York City's FC can't score a goal. Kind of your thoughts on that, and did you expect the Red Bulls to knock off New York City FC?
I was hoping for the Red Bulls to do that, but the expectation was that New York City was the better team, that they could put it together just with some of the bigger talents. Obviously, Morales is already on his last wheels, but Rodriguez has been fantastic, the Uruguayan kid. He's just something else.
What about Alonso Martinez?
Yeah,
I mean, there's a guy that has 16 goals, Costa Rican. He's only 26 years of age. Played for Alajuelense, And I mean, he's a great story. And, I don't focus as much on the Eastern Conference in MLS, obviously, because the Dynamo were in the West. But this guy was a tremendous pickup. 29 games, 16 goals. I mean, pretty remarkable. He had 6 shots in this game. I mean, it was pretty surprising they were shut out.
Yeah, and it's incredible. Obviously, the news came out that it looks like they're moving away from the coach as well, Cushing. So, it's one of those that um, you kind of second guess what New York City FC is doing with the whole city group. But it's kind of incredible that the Rebels are doing what they're doing, kind of coming under the radar. So.
Yeah, New York Red Bulls, I think it's good for them. They need to get some buzz in Harrison, New Jersey. They've never been able to get it. They're right smack in a really good soccer area. I know there's a lot of reasoning and reasons people give for them not being successful there. They certainly don't have the star quality of Thierry Henry, but they do have Emil Forsberg. All right, and you mentioned Nick Cushing is out right away. Vanni Sartini out in Vancouver. Josh Wolf out in Austin. I mean, we can go on and on with coaches. Luchi Gonzalez out in San Jose. I think it's 10 coaches now in Major League Soccer. What's going on?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit more pressure in some of those teams in comparison to maybe the EPL or clubs like that can do a quick flip with the amount of money they can spend. It's interesting to see MLS doing that a little bit with some guys that obviously you saw Jim Curtin as well, right? Somebody that's been there over 10 years and gets the boot for just one bad season. So
it is interesting. I think you're right. The pressure's getting lifted now. There's more spend on rosters and players. There's higher expectations. And I don't think anybody's, with all due respect, going to be coaching a team for 10 years anymore in MLS. I think that's going to be very difficult to pull off. We're going to take a break here. Quick reminder here, Marquee Entertainment Center, Hugh O'Connor's Pub. Tomorrow they will have Liverpool's game against Real Madrid out there. So 2:00, if you want some fun ahead of Thanksgiving, head out to Hugh O'Connor's Pub. And I also want to put a good shout out to Nico's Greek and American Cafe. By the way, you can get some of their sides to support your Thanksgiving dinner. So Nico's Greek and American Cafe, 3 locations in Houston. You got Montrose, you got out Beltway 8 and I-10, and then you have the New Woodlands location. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We got more to talk about.
You're listening to Soccer Matters on ESPN 97.5.
And on ESPN 92.5.
Brought to you by the Daspit Law Firm. From the Veritex Community Bank Studios, here's Glenn Davis.
All right, welcome back to Soccer Matters on ESPN 97.5. Daspit Law Firm, daspitlaw.com, 713-CALL now. That's Echo and the Bunnymen, so my friends down at Cactus Music will like that. Seattle 2-1 over LAFC. In some ways didn't surprise me. I know LAFC was the team that everybody thought was going to win this game. They start off getting the game's first goal. It's the number one defensive team in the league in Seattle. It ends up 2-1. Just some thoughts on that. Was that a surprise?
A little bit, just because obviously, like you said, you have LAFC playing at home. They've always done pretty well in the playoffs. Seattle hadn't beat them, I believe, in like 4 games. I think since 2021 was the last time that they beat LAFC. So, yeah, a little surprising, especially with some of seeing the lineup. You had obviously a couple big players out, like Nuhu, who was a key player, I believe, shutting down Dorsey in their matchup against Houston.
So. Yeah, that was a great matchup. Jonathan Bell gets the start. You got Whiting Baker, who's a young guy. I mean, Brian Schmetzer knows how to pull the strings for this Seattle team. Jordan Morris, this is what the game winner sounded like. This is an incredible turn and hit.
Ilie first to it. Roldan trying to bring it down. Not clear. Morris turning! Jordan Morris in extra time gives the Sounders the lead.
Seattle kid, that's the game winner. You know, people are always, they don't have much up front. Jordan Morris, but Morris, I think, has like around 15 goals. Let's go to Orlando City, Atlanta United. Big for Oscar Pereja, who used to be up in the Dallas area with the Dallas Burn, and a lot of coaching up there. In fact, he was the guy who set up their youth system. They knock off Atlanta United. Here's what the goal sounded like. This is, I think, Ramiro Enrique with the game winner.
To John Krasinski, but he had my vote. This is the biggest spot in their Orlando City careers. Over the head of Janssen. It's there for Enrique! Ramiro Enrique! His daddy was a pistol! He's a son of a gun!
15 shutouts for Orlando City. Again, one of the great defensive teams in Major League Soccer. It's their first ever conference final. Galaxy 6-2 over Minnesota. We're going to play one goal. This is a goal that comes 30 seconds in, Rudy. I want you to talk about this goal. Outside of the foot from Ricky Puig, who's lived up to it after coming over from Barcelona. He sets Gabriel Peck in. And Peck would, this would be 30 seconds in. By the way, Gabriel Peck, 16, 17 goals on the year out of Brazil. Talk about him a little bit. I mean, again, he's another guy like Alonso Martinez that kind of comes out of nowhere and is producing 15-plus goals.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I don't think nobody really expected for him to produce the way that he produced, the way that Galaxy ended up. The way that Galaxy ends up, bringing some young players, obviously him, Pencil. It's incredible. And that's, you win newcomer of the year, I believe, his first year, a ton of assists, a ton of goals. It's incredible the way that Peck just came into the season and killed it.
6-2 over Minnesota. Peck, Joveljic had a pair, Peck had a pair, and Pancil had a pair, and Ricky Puig was pulling the strings. Abigail, I think we need a break here, right? Should we hit a break? What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, we're going to do a break. Producer says it's time to take a break. That's what we're going to do. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We got more with Rudy Segura.
You're listening to Soccer Matters on ESPN 97.5.
And on ESPN 92.5.
Brought to you by the Daspit Law Firm. From the Veritex Community Bank Studios, here's Glenn Davis.
That's Love is Strong by the Rolling Stones. It's off the Voodoo Lounge. I saw that in the Superdome. Cactus Music will be appreciative of that. All right, let's do some Dynamo talk. How do you position this year? I know it's 2 for 2 playoffs. How do you position this year for the Houston Dynamo?
Yeah, I think overall you want to win titles, right? You want to win trophies, something that Ben said in his last, presser after Seattle.
But I don't want to know what Ben said. I want to know what you said.
So
What you say.
I agree with that. I think you need titles. I need that at this point, after making the Western Conference final last year, you expected a little bit of a step up. Points are nice. Getting road wins are nice. Overall, I think it's okay. It's good. It's a good product, because I think we tend to forget how deep this Dynamo was, before Ben Olsen arrived.
Yeah, that's fair. And you have to put it in context. I don't think there's any question. But I also think you have to raise the bar, and you also can't just say, well, because we made the playoffs, it's fantastic. I don't think Ben Olsen said that. Look, 2023 was a special year with Hector Herrera. 2024, the bar for me is, if you got to the Western Conference final, the bar is to get to the MLS Cup. And the Dynamo fell short. They got knocked out in the first round. And I think they still, to me, the one big question is goal scoring.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a question when they went out against LAFC. They couldn't create as much chances. So if you get to that Western Conference final, that was the question coming into this year. Suffered some injuries, obviously, Quinones and Ali. But what's the big question around the team for you?
Well, I would mention the injuries as well, because, you lose Quinones, you bring somebody else like Anali that could, do something similar coming off the bench. And he provided that. Obviously he gets injured within 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was a small sample size.
Very
though.
small sample.
I mean, I don't think I was hoping we would get to see him as a starter. I don't think there's any question he's a good signing. And I hope both these guys come back from these knee injuries, because these are very, it's not a great thing for professional soccer players to have knee injuries. It's pretty obvious.
And you would see the bench and you're like, who's coming in? There wasn't another guy, even with a player like Bassi, right? Bassi, I think the stats are very inflated with him in the passing and the accuracy. But he's not a true number 10. He's not a really creative guy, somebody they can dribble. And I think that's really who they need. You have players like Kovalchik that has a little bit more of a spice to him, if that's a good word to use for that. But it's not enough. And I think you're missing that big piece of just that creativity.
So is it individuals that you want to see signed to solve the problem, or is it a shift tactically?
At first I wanted to say that, yes, doing something different tactically, but I think it works. I think that they create enough chances. They just don't have any to put it away. And it's very clear having...
Well, wait a minute. If we're judging the season on playoffs,
sure,
we didn't have a shot on goal in Seattle.
Yep.
And we had an own goal. That was it in 2 games. Now, granted, Seattle's a great defending team, much like the Dynamo. And I think in the future in this league, with these great defending teams, which the Dynamo are, Seattle is, Orlando is, the greatest thing to break down good defending, collective defending teams that are organized, compact, have team shape, are masters that can, cutting off passing lanes and don't give you space, and have grit and determination and tackle and hit and are aggressive and take pride in that, is the individual soccer player.
Yes.
Why is LA Galaxy smoking Minnesota 6-2? Because they got 4 guys on their own that can pick a ball up and win a game for you. So I think it has to be a combination. I think if the Dynamo keep playing a very narrow system, one that does not have a transition game to it, one does not have enough dribblers as individuals, I think you're going to go into these seasons on small margins. You're going to be in every game. You're going to be great with the ball. You're going to have big possession numbers, but you're not going to take your just desserts.
Yeah, and I would say that a lot of it, when you're talking about the individual players, you had a couple players that were very similar in Coco Carrasquilla and HH. right? And that push Carrasquillo to play out wide, which he clearly wasn't good at, right? And when Hector was hurt, he did some of it as well. Better, he's able to push that ball from a deeper space and get in. He's still not the creative player that you need. So I think that in reality, the tactical approach that they have, I think is a good one. But you would need somebody to actually be a winger, somebody that can be an attacker on that right side of the field.
Is it too methodical, you think, to build up sometime? I mean, listen, the orchestration and the way Hector Herrera ran the team in 2023 that to me was the single greatest season a player had on the Houston Dynamo. And that's with all respect to the championship teams, which were really collective teams. But Hector Herrera needed to come and grab this team by the scruff of the neck and take it next level after everything that had occurred for so many years before, how beaten down the franchise was. He lifted him. He was an incredible watch, one of the greatest sporting watches in Houston that nobody really knew about and didn't get to experience, was watching him game after game. Totally bought in, everybody following him.
I think
not
the
the
tempo,
same, not the same in 2024. The tempo was better last year. I think he got higher up the field. And he also made more special plays. He had 17 assists. And he also had more movement from a striker in a way that he was getting an opportunity to face goals. And I'm talking about Corey Baird, who just kind of went into oblivion with FC Cincinnati. So I didn't see that as much now. I think it's a work in progress with Ponce.
And I just wanted to add that, if we think back to the beginning of the season when Hector was out and Coco kind of played that role, you remember he would make those long switch of plays, finding alley-oop, something that Hector really didn't do often enough once he came back in 2024. So alley-oop, and then you look at what alley-oop was doing. Alley-oop stopped scoring goals sometime in July when Hector was, full throttle.
Last time he scored.
Yeah.
6 goals. I had predicted he was going to get 10. I think Aliyu, when I think of him, when he first came here, he was playing a lot more instinctually. I don't think he is now. It almost looks to me like he's a player that's got so many things in his head that it's affecting the way that he's playing. It's like he's overthinking it. Sure. It's like I see all those incredible signs like Einstein in his brain just floating around. And I almost feel like he's gripped by something.
Kind of like Mike Tyson pulling those punches back a little bit in a way. Is that kind of where you're going with that? But no, I mean, you saw it with Blessing as well. In a few runs, it looked like he had a couple times that it was wide open and he would just slow down, come back, let everybody kind of readjust. I see, what you're describing with Allen.
And the tactical issue, I think, is, and this is what the Dynamo staff have to figure out. And nobody's has all the answers here. I can assure you I don't. But their main goal is to keep their team shape and move together. Move together. They don't want to get pulled apart and become elongated. They don't want to be elongated. And what happens is then when you lose your team shape, you feel vulnerable. Mm-hmm. But you also have to lose a little bit of your team shape if you, in fact, want to take a little bit more risk and not allow opponents to get settled. And that means you might have to play some riskier passes. That may mean you might have to, instead of holding things up and waiting for everybody to get up the field, you got to take somebody on. And it may get a little bit more transitional, like the 4-3 game in Vancouver. But I think this is one of the questions for the Dynamo.
Definitely. No, I agree with you. And transition was something that definitely hurt them in 2023. And clearly they made an adjustment to that. And you didn't really see those breakaways and one-on-ones against Steve Clark in 2024. And obviously, when you have the defensive core, the defensive group, including Steve Clark, they kept you in games too, because if it wasn't for you not scoring goals and not conceding them, I mean, that was plenty of points out there to grab.
Dynamo are in every game. Mm-hmm. This playing style will keep you in every game. It'll get you in the playoffs every year. But can it win you an MLS Cup? And I think that's really the big question. Rudy Segura, Tell us about your podcast real quick before
Yeah,
we
no,
head
thanks
out.
again for inviting us, Bayou City Soccer here, Glenn. Yeah, you can check out BayouCitySoccer.net. It's a blog that follows Houston soccer. Obviously, we focus on the Dynamo Dash and Dynamo 2.
Yeah.
And myself and Christian Putalias, who's another guy that you
Christian's
know
a
very
great
well.
guy. Joey, it's a good group of guys. I love your coverage. Remind people where they can get it.
Yeah, so again, if you look at the site, it takes you to all our social medias, which is pretty easy. Bayou City Soccer across the board. Check us on YouTube, and we do have a podcast that goes weekly. Usually Tuesdays, we go live on YouTube, and so you can go in there and comment away.
All right, Rudy, keep it up. I'm ready for my next return on the show. I had a great time that time when we all four of us were on Zoom. That was a lot of fun because it's a different format than obviously what we're doing here in radio. Thanks so much for coming on tonight, Rudy.
Thank you.
All right, Rudy Segura. He will go off to Thanksgiving like I will on Thursday, and we appreciate him coming on here tonight. Bayou City Soccer, and those guys are out at every game. They're going to practices, they're shooting videos, they're doing it all. All right, we'll take a break here. We'll come back. We got a lot more to talk about here. We're going to hit some international stuff next. right, podcast of this show, Spotify, Google, and Apple. You can get it there. You can subscribe. You can also get it here at ESPN 975. Let me get into some news and notes here the next 10 minutes. Then we got Jordi Sunye, TV3 in Barcelona. And then we'll finish it up by re-airing the interview with Tab Ramos, who, by the way, is now a scout for Besiktas in Turkey, which is pretty interesting. He's a North American and South American coach, scout for Besiktas. You will know that here in Houston now, I would say every single team in Liga MX has got either an official or unofficial scout patrolling the fields here. There's a tournament tomorrow called Copa Rayados, has a lot of international flair to it. So just understand that this is a city that produces a lot of soccer talent. There's people moving into coaching roles. They're going to higher levels in the game as players. They're going to every university and college around the country. We don't celebrate this enough in Houston. We need to. We just had one of our youth players that grew up on the fields here, went on to play in Major League Soccer. He's now the head coach of FC Dallas, Eric Quill, the guy that brought Chris Richards from Alabama to a local youth soccer club, the Texans, and then he moved him on to FC Dallas, and the rest is history. He's now playing in the Premier League, and he's been a starter for the U.S. men's national team. So the stories are everywhere out there. We just don't get the opportunity to dig into it a lot deeper. But there is just amazing resources in this city when it comes to soccer, and movers and shakers doing things at every single level of the sport. All right, so I want to just quickly let you know here today. Milan had a 3-2 victory over Slovan. By the way, Christian Pulisic scores again. If you remember, there was a lot of people speaking out, former national team players, about, well, he should have stuck around for the Mexico game and all that. I think Mauricio Pochettino knows what he's doing, because this is your star player now for the U.S. national team. Leads by example. He got a goal again today. He's one of the hottest strikers in Europe right now. 3-2 Milan gets a win. The other interesting one was today. Man City's up 3-0, like 55th or 60th minute, concede 3 goals. Vardiol has an absolute nightmare as a left back for Man City. This game was done and dusted. It ends 3-3 against Feyenoord. Pep Guardiola shows up in the press conference after, and his face is like all red. And it's almost like, unless this stuff was doctored, it looks like he was hitting himself. Like he was so frustrated, which is pretty crazy. Bayern with a 1-0 victory over PSG. And then tomorrow you got Liverpool and Real Madrid. The top team right now in the Champions League is Inter Milan. They got a 1-0 victory over Red Bull Leipzig. We got to do a shout out here for Arsenal fans. 5-1 over Sporting. So tomorrow you'll get more of the Champions League, which is a great precursor to Thanksgiving. Just a note on MLS. Dax McCarty, I think 19 years in MLS, something like that, some crazy amount. He ends his career with Atlanta United, so a big shout out to him. The LA Galaxy, highest scoring team in the league, is going to take on Seattle in the playoffs. The Dynamo and their system dealt very well with the LA Galaxy when they were here from an attacking standpoint. Pretty much defanged them. But Gabriel Peck, Dejan Joveljic, Pancil, Ricky Pooch pulling the strings. It's 4 guys, really 3, because Joveljic is more of a striker and he needs service. But 3 of these guys are capable of picking up a ball and creating something. So when you got a goal scorer like that and 3 guys surrounding him with movement, mobility, the ability to take people on that want to score goals or hungry to score goals, and that's an attitude, goal scoring, which I'm not sure the Dynamo's attitude in that category, if we make a comparison, comes even close. Has to be a hungrier desire to score goals, and it also has to be combined with people that are actually historically goal scorers. So the Dynamo have an offseason where I think they're going to try to make some things happen. I think they do need, a Ricky Pooch like 10 that takes people on, that, can hit penetrating passes. I mean, that ball he hit with the outside of his right foot to open the scoring up. I think it was Gabriel Peck who got the game's first goal 30 seconds in, was just a fantastic ball. This was a guy that when he landed at MLS, I checked with my contacts in Spain. I said, where's he at? And well, everybody thinks he's all about the luxury, the cars, the watches, and everything in Barcelona. Well, Ricky Pooch has lived up to it here, and he may end up taking the LA Galaxy to another title. So we'll see. Alyssa Nair for the U.S. women's national team has announced her retirement. So that means maybe a step up the ladder for Jane Campbell when it comes to, becoming a full-time starter for the U.S. women's national team. So we'll see what happens with that. Speaking of the Dash, their coach that disappeared has shown up now coaching in Spain. That's very interesting because at first we thought it was a health problem, but he just kind of disappeared. Nothing really could be figured out. I think we all speculated on where he went. The Dash did not have a good year. They're going to have to revamp. They ended up dead last in the league, which that is not good. But they he showed up now coaching back in Spain. So you got to wonder what that was about. Not sure. Maybe just a clash of ideology from the playing standpoint, but you also lost your GM too. So a lot to be done there. We are getting better overall defending teams in Major League Soccer. Orlando, Seattle, the Dynamo, these are all really well organized, well put together teams when they don't have the ball, and they're not easy to break down. So the future is going to be about how do you break these teams down. And again, to me, you got to go right to the individuals that you sign to help you make the difference. USL Championship was in primetime TV. It's pretty good. So was the NWSL. Rudy's over there. He's still here. He's shaking his head. Yeah, they got prime time. It's pretty good. And the Switchbacks of Colorado Springs won it. And we're going to have James Chambers, who's their head coach, on next week. But USL has just provided wonderful opportunity for players, wonderful opportunity for coaches, front office people. All kinds of people get additional opportunity. These are all teams and people making an effort in different cities around America. It's nothing to poo-poo or look down upon. I think it's fantastic. And there seems to be less of a concern of tapping into the USL when it comes to players and coaches. Guess who just went to FC Dallas? Eric Quill. So maybe this is the door opening for more USL coaches to get opportunities. On the other hand, I like the fact that Bruce Arena, the elder statesman, is now going to try to turn around San Jose. That's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. He got really wronged by somebody who claimed he said something he did not say, and that was pretty bad. That person, by the way, remains on the air. So it's a bit of a double standard out there sometimes. All right. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Abigail, thank you so much for getting us through this segment. We're going to come back with Jordy Sunier, TV3 in Barcelona. I think you're going to find this an interesting interview because Jordy and I, we were going to talk about some different things. And like happens in interviews, we went off on a different path based on questions and answers and talking about fans as opposed to clients, as opposed to, can you be a fan of two teams? We're going to find out next with Jordy Sunier, TV3.
You're listening to Soccer Matters on ESPN 97.5.
And on ESPN 92.5.
Brought to you by the Daspit Law Firm. From the Veritex Community Bank Studios, here's Glenn Davis.
All right, welcome back to Soccer Matters on ESPN 97.5. And as always, we want to thank out on I-10 in the Marquee Entertainment Center, one of the great soccer watching pubs in Houston. It's Hugh O'Connor's Pub. It's home of the Liverpool Supporters Group as well. And of course, the Liverpool Supporters Group feeling pretty good right now ahead of their big match against Manchester City this weekend. So big thank you to them. Also, a quick reminder here for Danish Inspirations Modern Contemporary Furniture. The best in modern contemporary furniture. They carry the Stressless line. It is the great Dane himself, Jan Christensen, who is a huge soccer fan. So support these businesses and establishments that support your game. Over to Barcelona, Spain we go. He is the one and only Jordi Sunier of TV3. Jordi, thank you for coming on the show as always.
Hello. Will you take me to one of these pubs when I come to Houston? I want to go to one of these pubs, really.
Listen, I told you, it's open. You come here anytime. First class treatment for you and your family. We'll take you out to Hugh O'Connor's Pub. We'll get you some Greek food at Nico's Greek and American Cafe. We'll get it all covered. But listen, speaking of travel, just tell my listeners where you're going this weekend, because you're going to see the Viola.
Yeah. Well, it's strange for a Catalan guy, but I'm a Fiorentina supporter, and I try to go to Florence every now and then. And on Thursday I will be going with a workmate to Florence just for 2 days, just for watching a Fiorentina game, Conference League game against Cypriot team Paphos. But the game is just an excuse to go there and spending 2 days in this marvelous city, which is Florence. If you haven't been there, it's one of the most beautiful cities in Europe, and it's a lovely, lovely place.
All right, you're a young guy, but does your memory go back to the days of Rui Costa and Gabriel Batistuta, a great 1-2 punch in the Serie A at the time for Fiorentina?
I became a Fiorentina supporter when both of them were playing with Fiorentina. It was not just a question of these two players. It was I had been to Florence in school trip some years ago, and I don't know why the city, the team, the colors, also some of their players, but somehow they attracted me. And I've been a Viola supporter for nearly 30 years, and I'm also a member of the Viola Fans Club in Barcelona. There's a Viola Fans Club in Barcelona. They are all Italian except for me. And I'm a proud Fiorentina supporter. So I'm looking forward to going to Florence, really.
Jordi Sunier, TV3. All right. So that brings up the obvious question here. Is it okay to be a fan of two teams? Now, how does that go over with the Barcelona fans? Because obviously you're a Barcelona guy.
Well, I'm from the region, but I don't consider myself as a Barcelona fan. I can admit I was, because all of my family are Barcelona supporters. But when you start working with them or covering them, when you start a professional relationship with Barcelona, you change your point of view. And some of my colleagues keep on being Barcelona supporters, and they are Barcelona journalists and also supporters. But my Barcelona support, let's say it cooled from when I started working with them professionally. I had to cover them, and now I've been covering Barcelona for more than 20 years, and I don't consider myself as a Barcelona fan, because in my opinion, it's not good. I prefer, of course, as a Catalan, if a Catalan team wins like Barcelona against any other team from the rest of Spain, it's okay for me. But if they don't, it doesn't matter. So I'm first and foremost a Fiorentina fan, and then my hometown team fan also. But I don't consider myself as a Barcelona.
Who's your hometown team, Jordi?
Well, I live in Olot. That's a small town of 35,000 people in the Pyrenees, in the Catalan mountains. The main team in the town play in the Spanish fourth division, but where we feel more community tied is in the neighborhood team, which is called San Pedro Martir, St. Peter. They play in the lower regional leagues, but there's a real community feeling. All the people from the neighborhood come and watch their games. We eat there, we socialize there, we drink some beers while watching the game. All the players are friends, are people who we people at the neighborhood know. So you feel this kind of identity. And apart from that is where my son plays. He was a defender. He's now a goalkeeper. One of these changes that sometimes happen in grassroots football. But yeah, these are my two teams, San Pedro and Fiorentina.
He's Jordi Sunier, TV3. This is really interesting stuff because I think sometimes in the United States, I had the very well-known Spanish commentator Jorge Ramos on, and not that I'm against it, because people are allowed to pull for whatever team they want for whatever reasons. It might be social, it might be it could be a lot of different things. But he calls some of the fans now clients, based on the fact that they just jump in and all of a sudden love a team. And I kind of go the other way and say, yeah, but not everybody's born in a place like you are, where the team is provincial and it's woven into the fabric of everything you do. Not to say that doesn't happen in the United States, but I'm strictly talking about football, how people adopt teams here. I watch Manchester United. Why? Because I went over to England and had a wonderful experience in Manchester with a lot of people. I remember watching highlights of them on TV, but it doesn't necessarily make them my team, but it makes me more interested. I'm not like that as much, but you really are woven in the fabric of your community with these provincial teams.
Yeah, of course. But at the same time, I must say there are some clubs that I wouldn't say prefer, but look to their supporters or their potential supporters as clients, as you were saying, as customers. And for example, take Girona. They have been really famous in recent years because of what they've done qualifying for the Champions League. They are the team in the capital of my region, town with 100,000 people living there. And they are a city group team. We've talked about that. And they were mainly during most of their history, they were playing in regional divisions, third division, fourth division of Spanish football, and they have grown massively under the city group. And there you have a great opportunity to, even having Barcelona so near to the city, because it's 1 hour drive, to try to build a solid fan base with local people. But apart from opening a big Girona Football Club store in the city center, they haven't done any community work. Players don't go to schools. Players don't take part in community actions like many clubs do in England. They don't organize, let's say, cultural things, mixing football and culture, which other clubs in Spain like Athletic Bilbao usually do. So they are losing this opportunity. And Girona fans and Girona supporters are beginning to be aware that they are looked from the club as customers, as clients, and I think that's not good, because football, soccer, as we watch it from a European perspective, it's a community thing. It's totally different from the States. You know that we feel woven into something thanks to football, thanks to soccer. We feel part of a community, be it neighborhood, town, city, region, nation, whatever. It can't be in several scales, but we feel tied with something or united to something thanks to football. So it's this modern way, or this business way of taking football. Yeah, I don't like that, and I don't think it's good for the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's over commercialization. So you're saying that maybe the Girona fans are feeling as though there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and that maybe they don't feel they're being respected maybe the way they should be.
take one example. They are playing Liverpool Football Club in the Champions League in 2 weeks. It's as you may imagine, a massive game. A team that were playing in the third, the fourth division 20 years ago, now hosting Liverpool Football Club, the legendary Liverpool Football Club, at home in their small stadium. That's more than extraordinary. So everyone wants to attend, and the stadium is small. UEFA regulations have reduced the capacity of the stadium to more or less 8,000 people. And members, although they are members and although they have had to register to get Champions League tickets, have to pay for this ticket. So first you get the opportunity to have the possibility to buy a Champions League ticket, but then you have to pay it. And the cheapest ticket for this game for Girona members, it's nearly, in euros, it's 90 euros. I suppose it will be $90, $100, more or less. So for a Girona supporter, if he's entitled to get, let's say, 3 tickets for all the family, it's $300 to watch this game, which for any fan, it's massive, because it's a huge part of your monthly salary. So that's an example of why many Girona fans, and this is happening also in other clubs, feel treated as customers, because it's something extraordinary.
Clients like Jorge Ramos.
Yeah, or clients. Let as many people as possible feel part of this historical moment for a small city that will host Liverpool Football Club in a Champions League game. But soccer is more and more all about greed, all about the money, all about business. That's the way it's going, and I think we can't complain. But you and me are not. We're not able to do anything about that. I think.
Yeah, we're not going to stop this machine. But that's interesting you say that, because it's very similar to Houston. We're hosting 7 games in the World Cup in 2026. I mean, this is remarkable to think you could be in your home and drive to the stadium in your home city to witness the world's greatest sporting event, the World Cup. This will only be the 22nd World Cup, which started in 1930. And I'm thinking here, it's the same thing. I wonder how many Houstonians, people from Houston, are going to actually be able to attend games. Number one, get tickets. Number two, afford them. So it's an interesting comparison. All right, let me take you into Barcelona. They're still top of La Liga. They're struggling as of late without Lamine Yamal. Talk to me how important this 17-year-old is to this club.
Well, look at the figures. 3 games without Lamine Yamal, no victories. It's easy to find a connection between not having Lamine Yamal and the results, but as Hansi Flick said after the Celta Vigo game, which Barcelona drew 2-2 after being 2-0 ahead in the 80th minute of the game, Hansi Flick said it's all about the team, not about an individual player. And we discovered at the tally, we were analyzing the game, and of course, opponents are beginning to study how do Barcelona play under Hansi Flick. And if you remember, they were masters at offside. I mean, opponents fell in offside positions, in that offside trap, like 10 times per game. And this has been reduced in recent games against Real Sociedad and against Celta, because opponents are beginning to use midfielders to attack spaces. So in the first games of the season,
well, something, can I stop you there, Jordy? Because
yeah,
I was amazed in that game against Real Madrid when Real Madrid was caught offside so many times that they never had any of their central area midfielders make deeper runs in behind from a deeper position against Barcelona. It never happened. It was stunning to me, because this is Carlo Ancelotti, one of the greatest coaches ever. And it never happened. It was amazing.
But you're saying this. You've been a pro, and you're watching this so easily. The Real Madrid players that tried to break this offside trap were the strikers, Kylian Mbappe mainly. And for example, if you look at the Celta Vigo game, neither Iago Aspas nor Duvicas, their two strikers, tried to attack these spaces behind the Barcelona defense. This was midfielders and attacking midfielders that were running to this space. So having this extra second or 2 seconds before falling into this offside trap, and the two strikers were waiting for second place. So it was a little bit easier to break this these situations. And if you look, one of the players that scored against Barcelona was one of the attacking fullbacks. So as I say, opponents are beginning to see how to create problems to Barcelona's defense. They will, on the other side, Barcelona will have Araujo in. I think even before Christmas, he can play some games, and this Barcelona defense is good for playing as they were playing. But if you need a defense for running back, if the opponent has broken the offside trap, the best one for doing this is Ronald Araujo. So they will have Hansi Flick will have plenty of job this next weeks, because he will have to change something, because opponents have seen part of their secrets.
Jordi Sunye, TV3 in Barcelona. So have you seen them playing with the high line consistently every game, despite who the opponent is?
Yeah, they try to do that. They always try to do that. And the thing is, they were confident in doing this because they were able to make the opponent be caught in this offside trap for many times in every game. This has not happened in the past 2 games. So I think from these 2 games and watching what happened at Vigo, let's see what's going to happen. It's difficult because it's one of Hansi Flick's trademarks, playing with this high defensive line. So it's not that easy for a coach, for a manager that has this high defensive line as one of his trademarks to change. But yeah, it will be interesting to watch what's going to happen in the next Barcelona games, really.
Barcelona only 1 point in their last 3 matches without Lamine Yamal. They lost 2, they drew 1, they lost to Osasuna and Real Sociedad. Hansi Flick still obviously is in good esteem with the Barcelona fans. I think it's incredibly unique to see a German coach running Barcelona. I just find it fascinating.
Well, it's not that fascinating if you look at the tradition of Central European coaches and managers that Barcelona has had in their history.
Fair point.
Obviously, you can talk of many Dutch managers, but they had German managers in the past: Tudor Lattek, Hennes Weisweiler, etc., etc.
That's going way back. Hennes Weisweiler.
Yeah, of course.
He was the
We're
New
talking
York
about the 70s
Cosmos
and 80s.
coach in America when Pelé was here too. Hennes Weisweiler came over to America. Wow,
it was a long way
back. What a name!
But there was a feeling of Latin managers and so many Latin players and Latin American players in the squad, not looking at the physical aspect of the game as they had to. It's true that with Hansi Flick, the team are more, I wouldn't say solid, but the block move together more often. I mean, with Xavi Hernandez, the team was, as we say here, was longer. So they needed to run a little bit more. With Hansi Flick, they probably travel together around the pitch, so they don't need to run that much. People feel that physically the team is better. And yeah, the team is better because they have changed the physical preparation for every game, the physical training. But the feeling was that Barcelona needed to be a more powerful team in the physical aspect of the game. And with Hansi Flick, they've done that. So apart from the results, there was this feeling, and Barcelona fans have been able to watch this, to sense this in the first games of the season. So for these 2 last bad results, I don't think Hansi Flick is is losing steam among Barcelona fans. No way, because Barcelona are still leaders. Real Madrid have to play the game that was postponed against Valencia, so they can get only 1 point behind Barcelona, but Barcelona are still leaders in the league, so yeah, nothing to worry about in my opinion. Still, let's see.
Barcelona 34 points, Real Madrid 30, but they have a game in hand, as Jordy said. Atletico Madrid at 29. Last question. We'll make it quick because I know you have to go, Jordy. Do people follow Inter Miami and Leo Messi in Barcelona?
Well, they do.
I mean, do you see those pink jerseys around Barcelona ever?
Yeah, some around Barcelona and many other Catalan cities, because of course Lionel Messi is still popular here, and there has been a big controversy because this Thursday, November 29th, Barcelona is celebrating their 125th anniversary with a big gala night in Barcelona, and Messi's not attending. And Messi's not attending because, well, officially, it's a schedule problem. He's not able to. He had any other things to do from many weeks ago, so it was not possible for him to attend. But of course, Barcelona chairman is still Joan Laporta. It's the chairman that ended Lionel Messi's era at Barcelona. So I think it's very difficult that the feelings and the relationship between Joan Laporta and Lionel Messi are going to be better in the following years. But apart from that, Lionel Messi is still popular, and we do follow. What Lionel Messi does at Inter Miami, and it's interesting to what's happening there with Javier Mascherano, because it confirms a thing that it was considered as a truth in Barcelona, even if the PR guys working with Lionel Messi and Lionel Messi himself always said Lionel Messi doesn't decide who is signing, which player is Barcelona going to sign, who is going away. Messi doesn't decide. But the thing is, everybody at Barcelona, while Lionel Messi was here, had this motto very clearly installed in their heads. It's keep Lionel happy. And the same thing, in my opinion, is happening at Inter Miami, because I read words from Jorge Mas, Inter Miami's owner, saying he had met with Lionel Messi after Gerardo Martino's departure, and he asked Lionel Messi, listen, Leo, what's the best for the team? What's the best coach for you to still give us your best and make the team around you give their best? So Jorge Mas is admitting that Lionel Messi's opinion is decisive in some sporting aspects in the clubs in which he has played. This was happening in Barcelona, and after what has happened with Javier Mascherano and Inter Miami, now we know that the same thing is happening in Florida as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's a great description. Jordy, listen, as always, thank you so much for coming on. Great stuff there to finish it. That's some eye-opening stuff, too, about Messi not coming to the anniversary and all. It's great stuff. It's fresh. And as always, we love your opinion. We love your take on the game. Thanks for coming on the show tonight.
Thanks for having me on the show. Thank you very much, Glenn. Bye-bye.
All right. So one and only Jordy Sunier, TB3. We do remind you, Little Patagonia Empanadas on Westheimer here in Houston. Also, every Tuesday up in Austin, I do a soccer hit, which I did this morning on ESPN Austin. And that is always brought to you by Little Patagonia Empanadas, the best empanadas you can get. All right, we'll take a break. We got more to come. Soccer Matters, ESPN 97.5, presented by the Daspit Law Firm.
You're listening to Soccer Matters on ESPN 97.5.
And on ESPN 92.5.
Brought to you by the Daspit Law Firm. From the Veritex Community Bank Studios, here's Glenn Davis.
All right, final segment of the night tonight on Soccer Matters, ESPN 97.5, presented by John Daspit and the Daspit Law Firm. It's daspitlaw.com, 713-CALL. Now, John and his firm, personal injury attorneys. You get in a car, boat, motorcycle accident. You need the best. The best is the Daspit Law Firm, and they have been longtime sponsors of getting soccer on the air. So a big thank you to John and his firm. Podcast of this show, Spotify, Apple, and Google. You can get it right here at ESPN 975. After the U.S. men's national team recent performance, I had on Tab Ramos, decided to re-air that interview to end the show tonight here. Here's Tab on the U.S. men's national team and his recent appointment to becoming a scout for Turkish club Beşiktaş.
It's great to be on here at Houston Station. I love it.
Yeah, well, you're a definite on here anytime you want.
Yeah.
You getting ready for Thanksgiving up there in New Jersey?
Yeah, it's a good time of the year here. Actually, the fall. Fortunately, we have a little rain today, which we haven't had in a couple months. So yeah, nice time of the year.
I'm not thinking you miss that Houston heat too much.
Well, I miss Houston. I don't necessarily miss the weather, that's for sure. And I'm sure most people would say that.
Yeah, for sure. So listen, you and I were chatting before the show, and I was really excited to hear this new job you have in the Turkish Super League with Beşiktaş. Tell us a little bit about it and what you're doing with them.
Yeah, I'm this started about 2 months ago. They brought me in to become their director of scouting for North and South America. In particular, with my connections in Uruguay and Argentina, being from Uruguay, I have a lot of contacts there. And then we have a lot of our focus on South America. So mostly Uruguay, Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador. Those are the bigger countries that we look for players in. And then North America, which is basically MLS and Liga MX.
Tab Ramos joining us. Does this obviously it entails a lot of travel?
Yeah, it does. A little bit of travel, but it hasn't been as much so far because we're waiting as we decide what players we're going to focus on going into the winter window here when it opens in roughly a little bit over a month. That's when we'll really have to zero in on certain guys. Yeah.
Tab Ramos joining us tonight. Always enjoyable. All right, so let's get your general thoughts. You were with Andreas Cantor. You called the U.S. Match against Jamaica. Get your overall thoughts from you on that.
Yeah, I was actually very happy to call that game. Andres and I'm very fortunate to work with Andres, who's the best of the best at this stuff. And I've been working with Telemundo since 2018, so it's been a long time. And it was actually likely, I don't want to say the only time, but the first time I really enjoyed calling the game for the team, because what I saw in that first half was just sort of these players who were free to play, free to roam. I think that obviously Pochettino got the tactics right with bringing the outside backs inside and sort of confusing Jamaica a little bit, but just the freedom and the happiness of the team, you could sense it, you could feel it by the way they moved and the way they touched the ball. That was a happy team playing. And as a coach, you want nothing better than that, than players playing who are happy. And it showed in the scoreboard. They were far superior to Jamaica. But yeah, I was very happy. I think it's the first step, because there's certainly some things we can talk about, in particular defensively, where we have a lot of improvement to make. But you know what? Just happy to see the team going sort of freestyle forward, and it was really nice to see. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, a lot of interchanging of positions. I think it was either Tim Weah or it might have been Yunus Musa. One of them just said, "Oh, the coach has given us freedom." It was as simple as that. That's what he said. So, to your point, yeah, it was enjoyable. That must have been an amazing game to call. How about the quality of the goals? I love that first goal. Pulisic starts it about 10 yards in his own half, ends up getting on the end of the McKennie cross. This was a 5-star goal.
Oh, no doubt. And I hope everybody recognizes that, because don't forget, he's playing a ball first time that's going coming from like above his head, and he can't see the goal, and he can't see the goalkeeper coming full speed, but he knows that he has to put the ball in the goal, so he has to peek, but he also has to be aware that he can get absolutely demolished by the goalkeeper. And so it takes a lot of courage. And if there's one thing that I have to say, there are many great things about Christian Pulisic, but if there's one thing that we know about him is he is willing to throw his body in for the team. He did it at the World Cup against Iran, if you remember that goal.
Yes.
Huge goal that got us into the second round, and he did it the other day. It would have been a lot easier for him to back away from that, and he didn't, and it was huge.
Yeah, took it off half volley too. That's a great point about the Iran game. Forgot about that. Playing Christian and maybe asking him to be a little bit more central. I get he had a free role. Do you think that adds a little more responsibility to him? And doubly, do you think that gets him even more involved in the game for the U.S.?
I like it. They asked me to, I did an interview, I don't know who, I think it was CBS or somebody a while back, and they asked me to sort of rate players by position. And I rated, Christian by position at the 10th spot as number one. And they're like, well, he usually plays wide. I said, but I think if we let him play in here and roam from side to side, he could create a numbers advantage on either side. And he could come in from the wing as a +1, which would create a numbers advantage. And when he receives between lines, he's really dangerous. And so that's where he played. And not that I got it right by any means, because I think a lot of people felt the way I felt. But I think it's a great position for him. He can do, he can do all three of those positions. At Milan, he plays a lot of time on the right side, but he could definitely do the left or the middle as well.
Yeah, and he was showing up out wide, complimenting the two wide guys and like kind of creating overloads. It was fantastic. I want to go to Tanner Tessman now, the midfielder, because obviously I think Pochettino wants to build out the midfield and make sure he's got some other proven players there. I thought he had a pretty good game too.
A little bit of a funny story with
you coached him, I'm sure, right?
I did, yeah. So I had him with the youth national team, and I actually had a conversation with him to ask him where he felt most comfortable playing, because normally you get a sense, at least I do, by not just by the way a player plays, but by body type and by the way they move in terms of what position they fit into best, right? So the most obvious would be a center back being tall, right? And so, but with him, I asked him because he can do everything right. Tessman can do everything right. So he could potentially play the 9. He could play withdrawn striker. He can play central midfielder, and he could play center back. Now, I know that people are going to hear this show and say, oh, he's crazy. He's not a number 9. He's not a center back. I'm not saying he is those, but I can tell you that he can play all of those, because he's talented enough to, not only does he have the skill to do it, but he has the physical ability and he has the ability to read the game that a lot of people don't have. So I'm not surprised at all by the game Tessman played. I have to say that's more what I expect from him, but he played a great game.
Yeah, good news is he's at Lyon. He's fighting away in the French league now. He made a jump up. By the way, Dabo Sweeney was the coach at Clemson and wanted him as a kicker. I remember he had to make a decision when he was at FC Dallas.
And you've seen Tanner play long enough where he has a shot from 30 yards out where he can destroy a ball. So I'm not surprised.
He's Tab Ramos. He's now the director of North America and South America scouting for Besiktas in the Turkish Super League. This is really cool. This is what happens when you catch up with an old friend. You find out what they're doing, right?
Yeah,
it's a good and exciting thing. I want to go back to what you mentioned about the inverted outside backs. Is part of that? What's the main part of that? For the build? Is that for transition when the ball's lost to protect your center backs? All of the above. What do you think the main reasoning Pochettino's doing that? Because that could be an area we would maybe be thinking if we're getting this much possession against Jamaica, we're considering and a little bit worried about the transition and the counterattack.
Well, what you're doing there is you're creating a second of doubt with the team defending. So when the outside back goes inside, now the winger has to think, do I go inside with him? Do I stay wide? And now if he goes inside and a little bit deeper like Robinson did, now between the winger and your opposite outside back, they have to figure out who gets who. So now you had Weah coming a little bit back about 10 yards further to receive. The outside back can't go with him because he can't leave the hole open for Robinson to attack. So you create that doubt between the defenders. And if you saw, Weah was open every time to receive. If you remember, we did that with Houston when I was there, bringing Zarek Valentin inside and then having the winger outside. We did that a lot. But this is, I really like that Pochettino did this because I'm sure this is not, we saw it this time, but this is just one game. I think if we know Pochettino well, there'll be other games where they'll be completely different. But I think what we gained from this game and by the change of positions is we gained that our players have the confidence now to do it. And so regardless of what he's going to ask for in the future, I think that this was a huge step into this team getting better and better.
Is he demanding more out of this group mentally?
Probably not enough yet. I'm sure he's just getting his feet wet and he's testing the water. But I'm sure as we have plenty of time. And I think the interesting thing is that there's really no pressure on Pochettino right now because what we expect is good results in 2026. And so everyone's going to let him work. And I think that's a good place to be. So I think he'll continue to tinker with things. And I think the mental part will slowly get a little bit harder for players as results are really demanded down the road.
He's Tab Ramos joining us. Look, you were obviously very uplifted by the performance. It must have been an incredibly fun game to call, but you as a former national team player, myself, anybody who was watching it, boy, this was a really fun, exciting, great, optimistic 45 minutes. Of course, we're not going overboard with it. We're going to be measured with it. But it is important that there is these moments of optimism leading up to World Cup 2026, right?
Yeah, because we spent quite a few years of just being sad watching our national team. And I think now to see the happiness in the players and how light they looked. And I think it's a big step. And like you said, we're not going to go overboard because there's going to be some ups and downs. And this is not to say that our next game is not going to be a bad one. We don't know. But we do know that this can happen now. And we were starting to doubt that this could potentially happen. So it was nice to see these great players like we have play a game like they played because now they're starting to reinforce and to convince us that they can do it. And that's big.
How much of this is just Mauricio giving them the confidence to have a little bit more freedom? I mean, obviously there were some tactical nuances. You had some players in different positions that maybe also lifted them, and maybe he was wondering what they would do in these positions like Weah. A lot was falling to his right foot coming in as an inverted winger.
Yeah, no question. It's not always about tactics. Tactics is just part of the game. I think is the approach that likely Mauricio has with the players that give him that confidence because you can hear it on their interviews, right? The players are happy, and I think when that's the case, they can give you more on the field. And that was clear. And that's not tactics. That's the way he likely manages the team every day.
This guy's a fierce competitor. Take us behind the scenes a little bit because not everybody, we're watching the man on the sideline and in the post-match interviews, but this guy's a fierce competitor. There's no question.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, you look at his background and not just the places he's coached and where he's been. I mean, he's been to a Champions League final. You don't get there by just cruising along. You don't get there by chance. You don't get to be in the top four in the EPL for how many years just by chance. I mean, he's coached great clubs. He did it as a player. He played for Argentina in a World Cup. I mean, how many guys that played for Argentina in a World Cup are not competitors? I mean, I can't imagine that someone is not willing. I mean, when you watch Argentina, you know that if there's one thing players have is they will die for that jersey every time they play. And I think he's one of those people. And I think he likely wants to, have that translated on the field when he has his players. And I think he usually gets that done.
Hey, listen, you knowing South American football the way you do, Tab, you just brought something really interesting up, because whenever we watch Argentina play, there's this, for the shirt. I mean, the intensity and the passion of delivering to the fans, the country, representing your country. Is that harder to attain with dual nationals like with the U.S.?
Potentially it could be, because maybe people, in particular, people who have not lived in the country. Sometimes you have dual nationals who grow up here, like myself, right? So I grew up here. I came here when I was 11, so I basically grew up, American. But and there are other guys who grew up in, let's say, let's take a Marcelo Balboa, whose family is from Argentina, but he's born here. So, so he's American. But sometimes we have in the national team guys who are born overseas who live their whole life overseas, and they just get a citizenship, and then they play. And, I can tell you this, that the guys that we have so far, if you look at a guy like Anthony Robinson, I mean, he gives everything for the national team, and he's one of those guys. So I think you can have it either way, right? And Anthony Robinson certainly has been at the top of delivering for our national team now for 5 or 6 years. He's been like likely the most consistent player we've had, and he's born overseas and he never really lived here. So it could go either way.
Back in your days with the national team, without naming any names, did you ever feel like maybe a dual national had a little harder time getting into it? Or is that a foregone conclusion?
No, we never really did. I mean, we had guys like Gurney Stewart who had grown up overseas, who had never really grown up here. I'm sure it was hard for him to come to the national team. We had David Raji, we had, Thomas Dooley, we had, there's quite a few guys, and no, it wasn't noticeable. And there wasn't certainly any time where you felt like, oh, this guy's not pulling for this, like never.
Yeah. Dab, listen, thanks very much. Congratulations with the new job with Besiktas. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Sure.
I think I did. Listen, keep up the great work there. I look forward to catching up with you again. Have a great Thanksgiving in New Jersey. And I'm sure all my listeners are really happy to hear this interview tonight. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for having me on. And a big hello to all the Houston fans.
There you go. That's Stab Ramos. He's the man. He's now with Besiktas as the director of North America and South America and scouting. And of course, you'll catch him on U.S. broadcasts with Andreas Cantor in Spanish. All right, that does it for Soccer Matters here on ESPN 97.5 tonight. A big thank you to everybody who tuned in. Again, reminder, Spotify, Apple, and Google, subscribe to the podcast. You can also subscribe at YouTube Soccer Matters. Hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at Glenn Davis Sock. A happy Thanksgiving to everybody here. And thank you for tuning in as always. And until next week, I'm Glenn Davis. Remember, Soccer Matters.